Okay, so we are now recording. I'm just going to go live on Facebook. Okay. Hello, everybody on Periscope. Thank you so much for joining me. I am also going to be on Facebook Live. So if you want to join me there and see me, feel free to do that. Okay. Where am I? Annette, I see that you're on. Anybody that's a part of the Academy, could you please just go over to Facebook so I'll know that I'm on. I don't know why this always happens to me. Okay. Okay, let me come down a little bit more so I can see the comments. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me come down a little bit more. Oh, 1 minute, I need to. So I'm gonna need to come back up so I can see these comments. We're on Facebook, but we're also on Periscope. I'm just making sure. I'm not getting any feedback. Bishop, say hello.
Hey, everybody. I am excited to be with everybody today. Pastor, I'm excited to be with you.
This might be the second time we've hung out. Like this, anyway.
Right.
Okay, now I don't know why I can't see. Hold on, everybody. We're already coming up. And if anybody wants to, Bishop, even if you want to see it, just go to my Debora Super page on Facebook. Let me see.
Okay. Pastor, how did you learn all of this? Listen.
It was a matter of survival. You understand, right?
I totally understand.
We'll talk about that later.
That's right.
Okay, everybody, welcome. Today is Tuesday, and today is the day that we get together for Hooper's Ministry Academy. And today I decided to open it up to the public because I have a very special guest that is on with me on today. Hold on a minute so I can make sure I look at everything on my phone as well. Because just in case you all are talking and I want to share something with Bishop that you all are saying, I want to be able to do that. So hold on. Okay. Here. Okay, great. Your people are already on, Bishop, saying hello to you.
Hey, everybody.
Okay. All right, so I got to give Bishop a formal introduction. Oh, my God, everybody's watching. Okay, so my good friend for low 30 years.
30 years. 30 years.
Bishop Hezekiah Walker, Grammy, what do you call it? Grammy winner. Is that how you say it? Grammy recording artist.
Grammy award winner.
Award winner. Thank you. Grammy. Is it 2 times, 1 time, 5 times? What is it? I want to make sure I say it right.
2 time Grammy award.
Listen, that works for me. 2-time Grammy Award winner, also gospel recording artist, one of the fave of everybody, and certainly now one of the fathers of New York City, the one and only my friend Bishop Hezekiah Walker, pastor, senior pastor of the Love Fellowship Tabernacle Church, and also the presiding prelate of the
PCJ's, the Pentecostal Churches of Jesus Christ.
Pentecostal Churches of Jesus Christ. I had that on another piece of paper somewhere. So, Bishop Walker, welcome to Hooper's Academy.
I am excited. Seriously, it's been a long time, but being friends over 30 years, you know, you'll do anything for your friend.
Yes. Thank you so much. Now, let me just kind of get into the nitty-gritty of why I wanted you to come on today. All last month at Hooper's Ministry Academy, what I do is I train and develop ministers to get results in ministry. So I tackle all.
And can I stop you for just a second and tell you that you are doing a magnificent job with that. If anybody could do that or should do that, it should be you, and you're doing a wonderful job with that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bishop. I appreciate it. And I know you being honest.
I'm being very honest.
So what I do here is I develop ministers and pastors to get results in ministry. That's really my focus. It's just really bringing them to how to do it. And so each month we tackle a different subject. And so for the month of June, what I did was I tackled the subject of millennials and youth ministry. Because unfortunately, one of the things that we're finding in our churches that a lot of young people have migrated out of the church.
Yes.
For various reasons. When we talked about that, some people can go to some previous live streams to look at them. But I had Bishop John Hanna on, who basically pastors a millennial church. Most of the people there are young, under 30 years old, and he talked about that. And of course, we know he's doing a tremendous job. But what intrigued me, Bishop, about you is that you are actually multi-generational.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when your spiritual father, Bishop, the late Bishop Kenneth Mose, shared with me that he was pastoring a church that was multi-generational. So you got that mantle now. Yes. And so I got to just kind of back up and tell a story why I really wanted to bring you in, you know, with you pastoring all these different levels of people, different age groups. But during your annual Easter resurrection service, I was in the restroom and one of the young ladies was in there putting on a pair of pants, and she was dressing so she can go out and perform. So I knew the young lady. I can't think of her name now. Her husband goes to Pastor Kevin Bond's church. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
And so I said to her, well, what are you getting ready to do? And she said, well, I'm getting ready to perform and sing with the young people. And I'm like, with pants on? So she said yes. I'm like, at Love Fellowship? long time. So I've seen the growth. I know the people that started with you. I got the Holy Ghost at one of your 4th Sunday night services. So I know the history of Love Fellowship. And then, you know, as you normally do, you post and everything on Instagram. And I kind of just started seeing a change. And I started seeing the word millennials. And I said, wait a minute. I said, Bishop Walker has his hand on the pulse of what I need to talk about. So I just been kind of sharing to everybody, you're leading the charge of really opening up to these pastors and letting them know, listen, you got to go after millennials, because unfortunately, if you don't, your membership is going to decline, your church is going to close, and you're really going to be out there struggling. So here's my first question to you, Bishop Walker. You went after the millennials. Why did you do that?
Well, you know, as I began to kind of watch, I'm a thinker, and I've been watching and I've been scoping the actual overall of the church, not just my church, but church period. And I realized, and then when looking inside of my church, Pastor, I realized that we missed a generation. We missed them. We have churched over them. They were there. They were sitting there. But we thought, at least I thought, they was catching it the way I caught it. And when I realized that they didn't, and how did I realize that? I realized that through my daughter. My daughter is a millennial.
Yes.
And I'm watching her and listening to her, and it was amazing to me that my daughter who lives in my home missed it. And I'm thinking because she was there, she was faithful, and she was participating. She was participating, but she was out of sync. And when I realized it and got a chance to really talk to her, talk to some of the other young people, and then of course, my scope and my reach is very broad. So even as I travel, I listen to the millennials talk, and I realized that they were in church. Well, let me take that back. They were at church, but wasn't in church. And there's a difference. You can be at church and not in church. And that's what I realized.
Right there.
That's what I realized. They were at church. And and remind me of the story of the man that was at the pool of Bethesda. Yes. He was at the pool, but he wasn't able to get in the pool. And so I don't ever want, from this moment on, anybody to be just at church and never be in church. So that's why my focus changed. And then I realized that even when I was coming up, whatever they told us to do, we did it, and it worked for us, but the millennials are not like that. They need answers. They don't want to know just because I say it, do it. They want to know why. They want to know how, and they want to know, is it in the Bible?
Bishop, we're going to get more into that, but let me back up because, again, you're multi-generational. You come from what we consider old school and all of that. And there are a lot of pastors that are on here who are older than us, who are struggling, non-techie, not sure about what to do. And again, this is one of the reasons why I on, but you just said something. You said it. You spoke to your daughter, Kyasia. We want to put her name out there. And you said that in conversation with her and also with other younger people, you realized that you missed it. And I wanted to go back to that because, I'll ask you, do you think that pastors are having conversations with the young people in their church?
Probably not. Probably not, because I wasn't. I was actually looking at their attendance, looking at the fact they were here and they were coming. And so I disregarded the conversation. And a lot of times people can be right up under you and not linked and not connected. And that's what I missed.
Would you mind being transparent and share why you think you disregarded the conversation just as a pastor? You busy, or what would you say?
Well, I think, for the most part, as pastors, we look for attendance. And sometimes attendance can fool us.
Good, that's good.
And in my mind, I'm thinking you're here, you are, and I'm watching your posture in worship. So I'm thinking, hey, you are connected, and you are definitely getting it. It's going down inside of you. And I realized after the conversation, they were here, but they wasn't here.
Wow. Now, what are some of the things, if you can share with us, that your daughter shared in those conversations and other young people?
Well, some of the things that she shared was, that church really wasn't attractive anymore, and that they were basically over the jump and the shout, and they were, although they agree with it, they agree with our style of worship, but they wanted to know how to become real kingdom citizens. What I mean by that, how to produce after we have worship. How do we have worship? How do we have worship and then leave here and live a fantastic life? How to become entrepreneurs? How do we apply what we have learned in church to our everyday walk? Is heaven just a goal that we really want to reach, or do we begin to have heaven on earth until we actually get to heaven?
Wow. I think that's great. And I plan to have a round table, and maybe I'll, inquire as to whether or not Kyasia would be interested in getting on, because I want to hear from them. I've done and talking to people, like you said, doing the research. I think it would be great to really hear how they feel. And like they say in it's a no judgment zone. We just want to hear. We just want to hear,
Just want to hear. And you know what, Pastor? After listening to them, I realized that their feelings and their thoughts and their thinking pattern is from a lack of knowledge. It's from a lack of actually teaching. And again, I missed it, and I can be honest and say I missed it. I'm thinking that they were catching it during the sermons, but I'm really finding out that sometimes our style of worship and the way that we preach in our public worship, sometimes it goes over their head. They need actually one-on-one, sit down, school setting teaching.
Wow. Good. On that note, I'm going to get into the marketing piece, but on that note, as the pastor, the general overseer, the church planter, all of these major titles that you hold, are you now considering even who your guest preachers are that come in?
Yes, very much so.
When you're choosing them?
Very much so, because again, we don't want to miss this generation. We don't want to lose these millennials. We have them here, but we have to begin to teach them. And we have to be able to give it to them the way that they can receive it. And if it's going to consider changing the style a little bit or changing the way that we give the word doesn't change, but we can perhaps change the style.
Exactly. Have you done that? Do you?
Yes, I have. Wow. I really have. You know, it's funny because of course I'm from the old school, and the way I was trained and the way I saw it and what I liked back then, I still love. You know, I kind of gravitated to that, but I'm learning to talk now. I'm learning to, you know, without the hoop and without, you know, with all of that, even though I'm not saying that that's wrong, because everybody has their own style of delivery. But again, I think that it's more effective now in this generation for you to give the word out so that they can hear it with simplicity.
Okay. So it's funny because Bishop McDaniel, he was just on with us last month. And we were talking about male dressing in the pulpit and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Good. And he talked about how Bishop Jakes, when he came into the city about 30 years ago to New York, you probably remember that, how he kind of made the hoop popular again. You know,
yes.
And all that. So now you're saying here we are with the millennials 30 years later, and they don't even want that.
They don't want it. They don't want it.
So we can say officially now it's okay to all of the preachers not to hoop. Can we say that?
It's okay, Pastor. It's okay not to hoop. It's okay. You know, and I think that there comes a time in our style of worship when that is necessary. But I think for the most part, people come to learn and to hear. And sometimes people cannot hear past that. And again, this generation, they are so used to kind of listening and listening without any type of distractions. So I think that it's very important that we understand that we have to meet them where they are.
Okay, now let's get a little bit into the marketing, Bishop. Okay, so again, at the resurrection service, you had that group that was on the platform, and they performed. They were tremendous. I mean, they had a lot of energy. You know, they were really good. I really enjoyed them.
Now, which group are you talking about?
I can't remember the one that got a special kind of name.
The 180, my youth choir.
Yes, them.
180. Okay.
Right. They had on the jeans and the t-shirt, which is a trend. The more I see, you know, some days or whatever, I'm online doing service and I kind of trek through, and you know, a lot of people just doing jeans and t-shirts, not just doing the song, but they're doing it pretty regularly. Now, right there, I think you got up and you shared about them as well. You marketed them. My question to you is, how did you do that? Did you do that street evangelism online? How did you do that?
We did all of it. We did street evangelism. We did online. We marketed. We let them know, listen, if you have a gift and you want to use it for the Lord, come on. You don't have to be a part of my church. Okay. If you just have the capability, or you just want to learn how to sing music to African-American people, you know that's our thing. Absolutely. You know. And so I think we need to use all of our gifts and talents to pull people into Christ. And I did it, and it worked. I was amazed at the young people that said, listen, we want to go and we want to learn to sing. We want to be a part of a choir, and let's do it. And they came, and we were able to teach them some songs, and we invited them to come to the concert, and they sang at the concert. And here it is, about maybe a few months later, and many of them have went and joined churches. Most of them came and joined our church, and it's just been amazing.
Wow, 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 wow. So you use the choir as a catalyst.
That's right.
Wow, 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 wow. And certainly that's one of your most prominent gifts that most of us are familiar with. I mean, you do so
Yes.
many things, but it's okay that you just kind of said, you know what, let me use what God has given me as a launch pad.
Exactly.
Now, you said some of them came in your church, and of course your daughter and other young people are in your church. And so I kind of been seeing some flyers, and I want to applaud you, Bishop. I want to talk about it all because I really want to learn. Even the flyers look different. Your dress is different. The whole. Tell me a little bit about how you're marketing that, even with the presentation of your flyers.
Well, from talking to the millennials, they are somewhat afraid of the stuff that we do, and all of the official garments that we wear. And so my mindset was, let me kind of meet them where they are. Let me turn my hat backwards. Let me put on a t-shirt. Let me go down as far as I can go. I'm not a millennial, but I said, let me go down as far as I can go so that they can be attractive. One of the things that my late bishop shared with us before he went on to be the Lord, he said, before people hear you, they see you.
Exactly.
And so I took that to heart, and I said to myself, let me try my best to be attractive so that they can look at me first, and then let me bring them in so I can share the word of the Lord. And so I did that and put some new marketing strategies together, put some flyers out, and made it look a little millennial. Put my picture look a little young, and showed them that look, we can give you the word of the Lord and still look like you as well. And we started this Millennial Bible study, and it is explosive.
Wow, 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 wow. I love it. And, when I see it on Instagram and Facebook and all that, I was just like, okay, I see you, Bishop.
And to be real with you, we have been in our Millennial Bible study for now 6 weeks. And in the middle of the 6 weeks course that we have taken so far, we got on dress code. And I began to share with them our official garments and why we do certain things and why we wear certain things. And you know what? They was amazed at the meaning behind what we wear in the pulpit. And once I shared that with them, they were able to digest it and go, okay, now I get it. Now I understand it. And because
it became much more acceptable to them.
Exactly.
In the Bible study, let's just talk a little bit about that. How are they coming for Bible study? With Bibles in their hands, iPads, phones?
Everybody got an iPad and everybody got a phone. The Bible is on their iPad, and it's so amazing to me because when we were coming up, I had my Bible.
Exactly.
And I got to get used to it. But I think 90% of the class, like we had our class last night, and about maybe 50 people showed up, and I would say 90% of those millennials had their Bible on their iPad or their phone.
One of the things I made a suggestion to the Academy on last week is to put it out to their adult membership in their churches if they have any old iPads and any old phones, to bring it to church so that other people can use them. Especially if they have.
Wow, great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Because we're always sending shoes and glasses and all that. Utilize that stuff right in your church.
Right.
Because all you need is the Wi-Fi, and you just need the Bible app on it. That's it.
That's right. And that's it.
Put an Instagram on it, because you're gonna be in trouble. Tell me, let's talk a little bit about, again, older pastors, and they have some reservations and some fears about the millennials and what's going on in church today. What are some things that you think that they should be prepared for in their response to millennials?
Well, I think you got to be prepared for any type of question. I got to be honest. When I did my first Bible study with them, I was kind of nervous. I said, I don't know what these kids going to ask me. I said, but I have to be ready. And the Lord fixed it where every question that came across, I was able to biblically answer it. So I would say to every pastor, just be ready for any type of question. Be ready for the questions that we never asked.
Good. Wow. Let me see. Let's see what else I want to say here. There are a lot of people that are watching us online. Thank you all so much for watching, and please hit the share button. And we really need you to kind of get that out to your friends and to your family about. Let me see. Hold on a second here. Hold on, everybody. I want to kind of just see it in both. Okay, so please hit the share button. Okay, so in regard to the millennials, their style of worship, like, do they shout, or do you have a hard time kind of get them to clap, or are they responsive in the worship?
Yes, they are. They're very responsive. We get them to clap, we get them to sing, we get them to dance, all of that. But I think in our setting, I realized that although they were doing all of that, the word of God wasn't in there. Mm-hmm. And so I had to come up with a strategy to pull them in so that they can really grab a hold to the word the way we did coming up. Now, of course, we got in a different way, and we went and we kind of studied ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then we came back, and whatever we studied, it was kind of validated. But I think in this time and age with the millennials, we need to sit down and really teach them and really give impartation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what they're missing. They're missing impartation. And if they don't get it in our churches, they're going to go get it elsewhere.
To be clear, what do you mean by impartation? Because I always like for people to be clear on what we're saying.
Mm-hmm. I think impartation to me actually means being able to speak to your spirit, to energize your spirit, to do better, to be better, to go out and possess. And I think, for the most part, we kind of teach that, and we do impartation in our public worship, but it's geared towards the older people. It's geared towards the older saints. And sometimes the millennials are sitting here saying, well, what about us? Mm-hmm. And I think our concentration is on the really foundation of our church, which is, our seniors. But again, when we begin to impart to them, when I said to them, this is just a class for you all and nobody else can come, and we put an age limit on it, and we said, this is for you, we're going to impart to you only, that really made all the difference in the world. When they really felt like, okay, there was a part. And then I began to teach them not only to be a part of it, but to take ownership. Mm. This is your church. Take ownership of your church. This is the word of God. Take ownership of the word of God.
What do you mean take ownership of your church? Bishop, I think it's Wi-Fi. Okay. Did you hear the question? Okay.
What was the question?
You need a millennial over there to help you? You okay?
I need a millennial over here to help me, right?
Listen, let me say this to everybody, because I talked about this, I think, on Tuesday, or one day recently. I just talked about this. Maybe yesterday. I do so much talking. But I was talking to a pastor, and, I said, you have to be okay with asking questions. And I want to applaud you, because when I sent the text to you and I said, Bishop, I need you to download this app, because this is how we're going to get on. And you text me back and say, okay, Hooper, now you got to help me because I'm new to this. I applaud you for that, because I think that a lot of ministry leaders are missing this move because they're afraid to say they don't know.
They don't know.
And one of the things I've shared with the academy is these young people come in techie. They were born into the tech world. This whole digital internet stuff is just their whole world. So every millennial that's in the church isn't just going to join a choir. is
No.
to join the usher board. And I'm sharing with people, listen, you can put them over your graphics. They can run your Facebook page, provided they know how to spell. Please make sure they know how to spell, everybody. Put them over your social media, because these are the jobs that they're getting into now. What do you say about that?
100%. I totally agree. And that's really what I mean by impartation. If we don't impart to them and let them know that they do fit in the kingdom, we don't let them know that they do have a place within the kingdom, a place within the church, someone else is going to impart to them, especially our type culture church. And most of our millennials are leaving our type culture church and flocking to the other ministries that are different from our culture is because of the impartation. It's because of what they're saying. Come and run my social media. Come and do my Facebook. And like you said, everyone is not going to sing in the choir. And that's what attracted me. Right. And I have that musical foundation. And that's one of the things that my daughter said, Dad, her mom sing, I sing, we come from a line of singers, and I'm looking at my child now, Ida, but anything that me or either her mom did or do, she'd rather not do it, and she does something
she's just saying, there's another track for me.
There's another track. And so she's like, Dad, I want to do, but I don't want to do that. So what can I do? So I had to pray and ask God to give me some impartation to give to her, to show her where she fit or to tell her where she's needed. And and I said, if my daughter's like that, I'm sure there's other millennials like that in the church. And that's why we kind of changed the whole thing.
Now, on behalf of all the PKs out there, were you comfortable, or how long did it take you to be comfortable with the fact that she ain't getting on nobody's choir, she ain't gonna sing, it's not her calling, you ain't gonna put her up there and tell her the Lord said, because that's not it. How did it take you as a parent that have that type of legacy, you and Lady Walker?
It took me a minute to digest it, but then I look at her other gifts and talents. She's a great administrator. She works in sales at one of the largest chain hotels here in New York City. And so I'm looking at that and I'm saying to myself, see, there's a business side to church as well. We praise and we worship, but there's a business side that most people don't understand. And I said to myself, maybe she is the one that's going to take the business side of our ministry to the next level.
I like it. And she could be a great help. You have guests coming in all the time. She's working with that hotel chain. She could be a tremendous help here. The spirit of hospitality.
Yes.
So many different gifts. And one of the reasons why I'm highlighting this is because I think oftentimes in our churches, and you let me know how you feel about this, as pastors and ministry leaders, those of us who've been around for a while, we don't look at young people as a commodity. We don't them as they're going to bring money, they're going to help build this church. You understand? But they're building it in a different way.
Yes. Yes. And, exactly. And what happens is we have to allow them to explore and to learn and to bring that back into the church. Like, again, as my daughter is one of the head managers at one of the big chains of hotels here in New York City. I'm like, if she can manage a hotel, she can sure help me manage a church.
Now, Bishop, can I say this? Bishop Reed, the late Bishop Reed, my pastor, said this. When it comes to running a church, it's not really about preaching. It's about the gift of administration.
Exactly. It is so about the gift of administration, and you got to be very, very careful. And I think that's why most pastors in our culture of church die at an early age, is because we're pastoring, we're managing, we are the administrator, we're the secretary, we're everything, And I think if we can free ourselves up to just be that shepherd and to teach and to preach that word of God, I think that we will live much longer.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Bishop, also when it comes to the marketing, when I look at your usually I see you on Instagram. You've been going on trips and stuff like that with the young people. You've been hanging out with them, like late at
Hanging out with them, hanging out.
I said, what is going on here? So is that something you suggest to kind of really, your level of impartation, you know what I'm saying, to kind of replicate yourself? John Hanna said that, you know, he has a group of guys he brings to the side and he spends time with them. Is that one of the things you're doing when you're hanging out with them?
Very, very important to do that. You must hang out with them. You must show them a different way of life. A lot of times, most millennials and most even youth in our ministries, they are stuck in our circle and in our culture of living. And so being that I have been abroad, I learned how to bring them abroad, to show them something else, show them something different, to hang out with them. And I always tell, you know, my pastors, you know, I am always afraid of pastors who don't smell like their sheep.
Exactly.
Shepherds should smell like sheep. You got to be, you got to be around your sheep as a shepherd. You have to, and it have to be outside of that worship setting. You have to be able to be around them to impart and to remember, and also too, I think that is very important. In all,
how can you even know what to preach if you don't even know what the need is?
How, and how can Elisha receive the mantle from Elijah if Elisha don't see Elijah? He have to see him. He have to be able to see him. And if I'm not with you, or if they're not with me,
I got to be able to touch you.
Exactly. Exactly. So if I'm not around them, if they can't see me, how can they receive the mantle? And that's why a lot of our millennials are confused even today, is because they are not around their shepherd or their father to receive the mantle. They are around people, which I call mentors, who are giving them impartation. And there's a difference between a mentor and a father.
Exactly.
And a father gives the mantle, but a mentor gives the impartation. And sometimes if the father is not around, they will receive the impartation from a mentor and they'll get confused and thinking that the mentor is really the father.
Oh, Jesus. Where's your offering, everybody? Because you just said something right there. That was so
and we have to be very careful, Pastor, because that's why a lot of our millennials are leaving our churches, is because they're on social media and they're hearing all of the new millennial preachers preach. And exactly. And these new millennial preachers are really giving great impartation, but that doesn't mean that that millennial preacher is your father, is your pastor.
Because first of all, they can't even touch you, you know, in the way that you need to be touched, and you need to be, you know.
There you go. There you go.
The shepherd is spending time with the sheep.
Exactly.
In that impartation, you know, I know oftentimes, particularly male leaders always have men around, but when you're hanging out, are there young ladies there as well?
Of course. I keep the young ladies around me. And I had to get used to that because, you know, I grew up in a church where they said women ought to keep silent. That's and right. Not say nothing. You learn at home. You learn at home. So again, I had to really come to that understanding that sons and daughters shall prophesy. And so if the sons and the daughters are going to prophesy, then someone have to be there to guide that and to really help and to train that.
Wow, that's good right there, Bishop. Really good stuff. Something else I was going to ask you. Let me see. I got a couple of things down here. Let me. We're gonna be wrapping up in about 15 minutes, and I gotta get this in. I mean, we got a lot of comments. Of course, you can come back and look at those.
Oh, cool.
Some of everybody is on here, but again, you know, I deem you now with the past of many of our forefathers that have gone on, who have done tremendous work. My God. And the mothers have done tremendous work in the kingdom. And now, you know, we have this new regime coming up, and tag, we're it, right? So yeah. You are certainly one of the newer fathers in the city. who's also been a trailblazer doing tremendous work. And now I'm starting to see you doing church planting. I mean, you kind of doing it a little bit, but I really see you going full speed with that now. I was just recently at one of your services here in Jersey, and I was looking at that flyer like, what's going on? So, if you're in my area, I'm going to come support you anyway because we
Yeah.
But I want you to talk a little bit about you being a church planter. Tell us where your churches are. Tell us what you're doing.
Wow. Well, we just planted a church in Atlanta, Georgia this past Sunday, and it was tremendous, So we're planting a church. Planting the next plant is the 15th of this month, and it's going to be in Delaware.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going to Dover, Delaware. Mm-hmm. So we just did one in Atlanta, and we're doing one in Dover, Delaware. Of course, we planted one in Harlem. We call it Harlem, USA. That's where you're from.
Yes. Yeah, we were telling me to plant a church, but go ahead.
I told you. Harlem, and of course, North Carolina, we're doing, and then we're doing South Carolina. So, I don't think that we are doing enough kingdom building. Mm. And so my job has been helping pastors to understand, to broaden their horizon, don't stay localized. Mm. And that's why I like what you do. I've been watching, you've been watching me, but I've been watching you. You can't stay localized. You have to get out there and broaden yourself and broaden your ministry. One thing, when you read about the apostles, what they did, the Bible says that they were witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea, but then they went to the uttermost parts of the world. Mm. And I think that, the anointing that's on most preachers these days, it's too big and too major to stay localized. Mm. And I think we need to start setting up and planting, getting people out.
They need to receive that. It's too big.
Yes, it's too big to be localized. You are too big to be localized, and that's why a lot of pastors become frustrated because they got so much inside of them, and they're staying in this corner in their city trying to be. But you got to really take a little scope wherever you are. Like, of course, everyone knows I live in New York. I've watched New York church. I have watched the growth. I watched the decline, and as large as our city is, church is yet small in a big city, and I get it and I understand it, and it's other reasons for that, It's not just the negativity of church, but there's other reasons why church is the way it is in New York City. First of all, we live on top of each other.
Right, exactly.
Second of all, we don't have property.
Exactly.
So you have to understand that. But again, the wealth, the wealth and the worth of the ministry that's inside most of us is bigger than our city. Mm-hmm. And so when you learn that, then you'll go to other cities and then you'll begin to set up. And then it'll give a platform for your preachers who are sitting there that's not able to preach in your pulpit because there's only 2 services a week. Right. And those services belong to you.
Exactly. So if you branch out,
right.
And start developing them. So tell us now, how many churches you got, where they are. I know you've been in South Africa. This is it. I want you to tell it to the
people. This is it. All right. So we got South Africa. We got Cape Town. Of course, we have a church in Saginaw, Michigan. We have a church in North Carolina. We have a church in Virginia. We have a church in Rochester, New York. We're getting ready to plant a church real soon in Niagara Falls. We're getting ready to start a church in Toronto, Canada. Of course, we got Bensalem, South Carolina, North Carolina. We got Lawrenceville, Georgia. We just started a plant church this past Sunday in Atlanta. Of course, we talked about the church in Dover, Delaware. So it's moving, and I'm really excited. And all those are Love Fellowship churches.
Right. That's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, how do you brand them? When they see them because they see what? How do they know it's the Love Fellowship brand?
You'll see the Kingdom Church. Whenever you see the Kingdom Church, it'll say the Kingdom Church, Love Fellowship Tabernacle. You know it's us.
Okay. And now, I don't know if it passed already or it's coming up, but I know this month is your Holy Convocation. Is that right?
in the month of August, August 13th through the 15th. And we're going to be in Atlanta, Georgia this year. So we are really excited about that. Got some great speakers. And this year we're looking forward to, this is the 8th year. When before Bishop transitioned, he told us don't make any changes until 8 years after my death. And this is the 8th year of his death. And so this is when we're going to start establishing, putting things in place and putting some order to our Reformation, our fellowship. So I'm really excited about this year's convocation.
Wow, Bishop, going back to the millennials, just something just came to my mind. You talked about entrepreneurship. Do you think it's important that even though we pastor and we give that spiritual side, but in our churches and our worship today, that we also talk about the marketplace?
Very important, because that's where the souls are. And to be truthful with you, that's where the money is. The money is in the marketplace. And so sometimes you got to go where the money is. And so the money can come back to the church. The Bible said the wealth of the wicked man is laid up for the righteous. But so we have to go into the marketplace where the wicked one is, where the money is, and we have to learn. And Jesus said these words, that my people are destroyed because of a lack of knowledge. And one thing about the millennials, they want the knowledge. So we have to give them the knowledge, send them out into the marketplace to become entrepreneurs so they can bring it back so we can continue to build the church.
And are they really pulling on you for that level of information, entrepreneurship, home ownership, things that we didn't hear in our churches?
Yes, and this is really what they are attracted to. They're attracted to money, how to maintain it, how to get it, how to make it grow. They are into property. I heard a few of them talking last night about how they want to get into real estate and how they really taken some real estate classes. And so those are the things that we have to begin to teach. Like you said, we didn't learn that stuff growing up. You know, I don't know what I was thinking growing up. I'm thinking if I pay my tithes, get my offering, it's just going to come. It's going to happen.
That's what I told us.
Yes, that's what I thought. I said it's going to fall out of the sky, and it was going to come. And I, and again, I'm not beating my forefathers up, because I thank God for my foundation. They gave us what was needed, and I am strong today because of it. But I since then learned that after you receive that, then you have to apply it. Faith without works is dead. So I'm now learning how to get up and utilize, my faith by getting up, going after what I want.
Bishop McDaniel talked a little bit about that. I'm sure most of the people that are watching know that we've been hearing sometime on social media, some of the newer pastors kind of, be a little bit derogatory to those that have gone before us. And so he talked about the importance of us respecting and honoring those that have gone before us, even though they didn't have what we have, they didn't know what we know. Again, like you just said, we just paid our tithes and offerings, and we did what they said, and it was okay.
It was okay.
And we made it. The foundation that was laid for us was good. Do you agree with that, Bishop?
Yes, I do agree. I don't agree with getting rid of our foundation. We stand on their shoulders. And I think that we would do the kingdom a disservice for us to talk against them and to be mad at them and to be upset with them and remove the foundation that they have laid. Of course, they did what they had to do for that time and for that season. And it worked for us. I am not one of those who are bitter. I am not one of those who are mad, who are upset. And one of the reasons why I'm not mad or bitter because of the way I was raised or the way I was taught is because it saved me, literally. Other folk got caught. Other folk got, do you know how many of my friends that are dead? Do you know how many of my friends that are probably even sick or even in jail? How many of my friends who are now backsliding? But because of the strictness and because of what I was taught, I held on to it, cried holding on to it, not understanding why I couldn't and other people could. But when I look back at it, it saved my life, Pastor. And there's no reason for me to be upset or be bitter or to be to be mad about it. Like someone asked me the other day, like I've never been to any of my proms because they told us we couldn't go. And right. And I'll never forget, I made up in my mind I was going to go to my high school prom. And I came home, my mom was home, and I went and bought my tuxedo and everything. And my mom said to me, she said, "Oh, so you are going to the prom?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going." And she said, "Okay, great." She said, "You going to church Sunday?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be in church Sunday." She said, "You going to dance in church on Sunday?" I said, "Yeah, probably so, because I dance every week in church." She said, "Well, listen, if you're going to go to the prom, if you start dancing Sunday, I'm personally going to come up and sit you down because you can't dance on both floors." And I'll never forget, I looked at her, I went in my room, and I said to myself, well, I'm not going to the prom because I know I'm going to dance in church on Sunday. And I laughed at that thing, and we laughed at it. And then I was telling someone what happened, and they was like, "Oh, we feel so sorry for you." And I was like, wow, no, but see, it was good that my mom challenged me like that, and again, I missed it, and then there was some who missed it and was mad about that. And I didn't grow up mad about that, but I've never experienced it. But again, I don't take that lightly. I'm like, okay, cool. I look at it like this. It's a possibility because the way I was growing up, I used to love to dance. I used to love all of that. And some folk can go out there and not get caught, but it's a possibility, Pastor, I would have went out there and got caught and never came back to church. You understand? So that's how I look at it. I look at it like that. So I'm not mad about it, but now I got a greater understanding about it, and I kind of get it, and I understand it to its fullest. Some people say, Bishop, we're going to give you a prom. I said, okay, cool.
Well, I've seen now that you're have a church in Atlanta, I did see something online. It wasn't Christian, but it was like an adult prom. And
right, exactly.
You heard about that, but we don't have enough events, and particularly for singles, but that's a whole nother tangent. I ain't gonna go on that. In the church for Christians, and we could have let's say if we had a prom, like some big banquet hall, we had a prom for everybody between the ages of 40 and 60. A Christian prom, and they paid all
Christian prom.
From back.
That's right.
And we did the
the
Soul Train. Listen.
That's right.
Yes. Are y'all listening to right now? Bishop,
that's right.
I'm happy that you're on, and I know so many thousands of people that are watching this who really don't know a little bit about you. And as you talk a little bit about your history, they probably look at it and say, well, he's always, been a success in music and got 2 Grammys and, been prolific and just your whole legacy. But they don't know where you come from, your struggle of Fort Greene Project. Tell the people a little bit about your past.
Come on, Pastor. Come on. Man, growing up in those projects, I lived in those projects for 24 years.
And tell them where
I didn't leave
all of that.
Fort Greene Projects, man, it was amazing. Growing up downtown Brooklyn in those housing projects, about 280 buildings. And so you can imagine how many families that live down in Fort Greene now, destined not to come out, destined to die right there. And the Lord handpicked me out of those projects. That's why I could never disregard my foundation. I believe that the Lord blessed me because of my obedience, and blessed you as well because of our obedience to what we were taught. And coming out of there, and again, I thought about it. My mom died when I was 20. So 4 years after her death, I lived in those projects alone.
Wow.
And the Lord brought me out of there and made my life into a major success story. So I'm a living witness that God can take you from nothing and bring you into something big.
And that's exactly what he did with your life. Because there was a time I remember in high school, I went to high school in Manhattan, and you kind of had people that came to the school I went to Norman Thomas High School. All the flyers was, I gotta put the plug in, and people, you meet guys and they be like, "Well, I live in Fort Greene." I'm like, "Oh no!"
I know. That's right. They're like, oh no. Fort Greene was one of the notorious projects in Brooklyn, and I tell you, so many things happen while we're growing up to distract us from the purpose of God. But thank God for the hedge that was around me. And I'm big up Fort Greene even till this day. Although, most people have horror stories about the projects. I don't have a horror story. I mean, I had a good time. So many things happen, but I appreciate Fort Greene. I appreciate the projects. That's why I go back down there every chance I get to go out and extend my hand to them and to let them know that something good can come out of Fort Greene
Bishop,
and any projects.
exactly. Talk a little bit about that. You said sometimes you go back down there, and you extend the hand. Do you think that pastors should do? Go back to what where we grew up at.
Go back. I go back. I do concerts down there. We go back. We do every year. We do a back to school drive where we give out backpacks and we give out food supplies. We do free haircuts. I go right back down, right back in the middle of where I grew up at, and we extend our hand to that. And I think that that's very important. Absolutely. That where you from, you go back to that community to let them know that we did not forget about you.
And let me say, that Easter resurrection concert that you usually have is basically in the Fort Greene area, right there at the Brooklyn Bridge.
And that's why I do it. I do it there. Every year. We've been doing it for the last 13 years. I go back every Easter to do it in Fort Greene so that they can come and be in our worship.
And everybody, even if you don't live in New York, it's tremendous. I go every year. Got to get there early. Let me tell you.
Get there early.
It's free. And I mean, you're one of the very few that bring the stars, you know what I'm saying, to New York for us, and we appreciate it. I got two more things, and then I'm going to close up. Talking about music, one of the things I kind of suggested with the ministry leaders in regard to the millennials and the style of worship changing is that they might want to consider incorporating or allowing rap music when they have their youth services or anything regarding the young people. What do you think about that? You know how I feel about it.
100% yes. One of the things is, and this may sound a little controversial, but I need to put it out there on this platform. We cannot change the style of our culture. It's us. I know the worship is in, and we don't deny the worship, but when we try to change the culture of our worship, who we are to fit into another culture, I'm just gonna come right out and say it. When we try to become the CCM people, and don't become us and don't remain us, it changes who we are. I say to everyone that's listening, every pastor, don't get caught up in the changing of the music. I think that we should stay true to our heart, to what God gives us. The sound got to be us. The presentation have to be us. It have to be us. And just because they don't think that's correct or they say it's wrong, why is it wrong? It's not wrong. If we do it from our heart, and if our music comes from our heart, and if our songs come from our heart, I think we need to stay true to it. Now, am I saying don't do no CCM songs? I'm not saying that. Let's do them. But let's do them and let's make it ours. Let's make it ours and let's stay true to it. Now, when it comes down to the rap, that's something that was birthed in our culture. Exactly. And we have to keep it within the culture. Yes, it should be a part of the church worship. Yes, it should be a part of the church. And we should make it our own. And we should make sure that we have it and make sure it's a part of it because it's who we are. We have always been creative. We've always been talented. And the church is the vehicle to display the gift and to display the talent. And I think it's very important that we don't let outside influences change the way we do things in the Black church.
That's good, Bishop. It's definitely a form of expression for us. I often tell a story, as you know, and I'm so glad I wasn't thinking about this, but it just came to my mind. I shared this story with you. When I first got saved, most people know I'm one of the first female MCs in the hip hop culture, MC Debora. Right. And when I first got saved and I met you, I'll never forget this as long as I live. And you was like, you don't think that you could still rap? I was like, are you
Right.
crazy? No, because I had all this apostolic,
Yes.
teaching, and it was, you can't be with them no more and get rid of all your friends. And I did all of that only to come back around 30 years later. And now the Lord is dealing with me with that, and helping me to see that even when I go back in them circles now, talking about going back, everybody's like, oh my God, that is amazing. Like, what you doing? And
right.
I started the Hip Hop Ministers Alliance.
That's so good.
To Christian them, to bury them, to counsel them,
that's so good.
to pray with them. You know what I'm saying? And so I just believe that God took me that path. And even though, again, like we say, our father said we couldn't do it, and it was all hidden like Esther, but it was hidden for such a time as this.
It was hidden for such a time as this. And the deal is that gift is in you.
Yes.
It's there. And you know how to do it. You know how it should be done. And what better way? Look at the millennials. Yes. That's all they listen to.
Exactly.
That's all they love. And if we don't know it, and if we don't know how to give, how can we reach them? Exactly. We have to reach, and that's why we need people like you and others who have that gift, and we have to display it. We have to display it. And then I know.
What do you think about Snoop Doggy Dogg when he came out with this gospel album? What's your opinion on that? I think he bust down the door for me.
Listen, I think, everyone asked me the question, and I said to myself, and I said to them, the Bible says, let everything that have breath praise the Lord. Mm-hmm. He has a right to praise the Lord. He has a right to do it. It is a start. I say to everyone who is against it, allow the man to praise the Lord. You never know what's going to happen from that point. Now, you got to be very careful how we tell God how to bring people in. Right. And I think the most important thing is, now that he has an appetite for it, we just got to make sure that when he comes around us, that we're walking the chalk line, that we're making sure that we represent correctly, so that he can really come all the way in. Exactly. You gotta catch it. My mom used to always tell me, you gotta catch a fish before you can clean it.
Exactly. Very true, Bishop. And I appreciate that. And I like what you said. It's a start. And it would have taken somebody of his caliber to open the door. I mean, he funded the whole thing, I believe. The whole thing. And they said they had the freedom of expression to say Jesus as many times as they want to.
Yes.
On the heels of that, I know, we're going to close up in a minute, but if I'm right, you got your own, what do you call it?
My record label.
Yes.
My record label.
My single might come out and love
you better know it. I got my own label, and we just signed a wonderful deal with RCA Inspiration, Sony Music, and I am so excited. So we're working on some things now. I got some things in the hat that I can't.
You ain't got to say. You're working on some things.
I'm working on something. I got some things in the hat right now that I can't pull out just yet. That's right, but it's going to be amazing.
The first female MC got to be
the first MC. But I promise you, it's going to be really big. And starting the first of the year, you're going to hear a lot more from the Hess House Music Group.
Label?
It's called Hess House Music Group.
Okay, Hess House Music Group. So watch out for it. My last question, Bishop, and then I'm going to close. If you haven't shared the stream, please share it so other people can get this information. What would you say about working with the millennials over these last few months is your greatest challenge?
My greatest challenge is helping them to understand the ways of Jesus and getting them to really buy into his righteousness. Mm-hmm. And that's the greatest challenge, because again, in this liberal and free society that we are coming up in now, where everything is okay, and so it's difficult for them. They're only in church twice a week. The other 5 days, they're in a world who says anything goes and it's okay.
Yes.
Do you? And I think that the challenge for me as a preacher is to help them to understand the ways of Jesus and to embrace the fullness of his righteousness, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it
The
does.
fullness of his righteousness and everything that they ever would ever need in life will be added to them if they can embrace his righteousness.
Mm, mm. Have you thought
That's that's
about
that's been my challenge.
tackle that?
Say that one more time.
You thought about how you can tackle that to
Well,
reach?
I've started it already. Been taking baby steps. We've been talking about some practical things like dating and living with each other without being married, and you know, being very honest with them about sex.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You know, so we that's been very challenging for me to kind of talk with them and be, transparent,
right.
and then give them biblical, references of where they can find what I'm saying to be true.
Mm-hmm,
And so I've been taking my time with it. Last night we got into, a discussion about premarital sex.
yes, good.
Um, and about actually living with someone with your, I think they called it your my significant other.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And why is it wrong to live together now, as opposed to getting married? So if you kind of and again, I think these are practical questions
Well, let
that
me just jump in, Bishop, and say this. That's really good. And I did share with the Academy, and the Academy is open for anybody that wants to enroll in this month. But
great.
that particular issue is major in this hour because in the Black community, it's being said that people do not want to get married anymore.
Exactly.
So if you have unchurched people coming in the church, like you just said, 5 times a week, 6 times a week, that's all they're hearing. What do I need that for? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why it's so important for us to really kind of talk about it and to help it, and then to help them to understand, especially again, and I don't want to become, one-sided when it comes down to our culture, because I know you keep hearing me say that word,
No,
but I think, okay, great. Because I think in order for us to really understand who we are, we have to understand our lineage. We have to understand
we
where we
are.
come from,
I understand
and who we are.
who we are.
We have to. We have to understand that, because if we don't understand it, we will not really gravitate to really our fullest potential. So I think that you said something key there. In our Black community, a lot of things are being said in our community that is just wrong,
Right.
and it damages our culture and it damages our community. So it's up to the Black preacher. Exactly. So it's up to the Black preacher. It's up to the Black pastor to stand up and say, "Listen, this is the way to go."
And that's true too. But I think even before they can do that, it's up to Black preachers and Black pastors to be more learned.
Amen.
You can't talk
Amen.
about something you don't know.
You don't know.
It's,
And this is the problem. And this is why the millennials are running away from the church.
yeah, that's good, Bishop.
This is why they run away from church. So we have to know, we got to become more educated in other things. How do I say this? We have to become more educated in other things, in other arenas, and in other circles other than the.
Our own community.
Thank you for saying it for me. No, we have to get outside of the four walls of the church. I
Exactly.
mean, we have to know more than just Sunday morning, Tuesday night,
Exactly.
in order to minister to those who are getting ready to come.
Exactly. If they're going to come, because this is one of the reasons why, and I did a live stream on this, because everything in the Academy is practical. It's practical information.
That's
And I
so
talked
great.
about at least 300 churches are closing each month.
Each month.
You
Each month.
So a lot of pastors are being affected with, a lot of, again, this is why I wanted you specifically to come on, not because you're so major, but because, again, you're multi-generational. You've been in this for a while, and now I believe, I said, when I saw the flyer, I said, I believe that Bishop Walker is saying to himself, I need to jump on this right now, because if you don't have young people in your church, you're not going to have a church.
You're not going to have a church. And we're not going to discuss the gentrification that's coming in our community.
That's true, too.
We're not going to, because see, now, if you don't grab a hold to the millennials and the young people, when the gentrification really hits your community, it's going to change the dynamics of your church. So we gotta all begin to figure this out.
That's good, Bishop. Having said that, and I'm gonna close, but because now you got my mind running. Are there any forums that you know of where leaders, ministry leaders, come together discussing this at all?
I don't think so. I think we should start one, because it's real, Pastor. It is real. Maybe you can kind of talk about it. Maybe you need to really probably consider talking about this on your show. But this is, and we need to come together, because it is happening right here, even in East New York, where I'm at. Within 2 years, you will not know East New York.
Wow.
At all. The gentrification is here. A Whole Foods, they're putting a Whole Foods supermarket right around the corner from my church. Right around the corner. So what's happening. They're getting ready to put up high-rise buildings, condos, and it's just going to be all up and down the avenue is going to be condos, and people are selling their property now for it. And so they are getting ready to come into these neighborhoods. And when they come into our neighborhoods, we're going to have to change the dynamic. Come to our church. If they're going to come to our church, and
if empower the people, you have
exactly, we have to empower
them. Social component as well, spiritual and social.
If we don't do it, we're going to lose.
Wow. I got to find another note to end on, because that's so sad. I want to cry.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? And seriously, and let me tell you something, Pastor. They've been yelling at us and telling us things was going to happen, and we ignored it. And now that it's here, it's throwing everybody off guard. And but I think if we can supply some information now, and we can formulate a strategy, because there's got to be a strategy of survival for us.
Yeah.
So I think that, on a good note, I think that we just have to come and put our minds and our hearts together, and we have to come up with our strategy, because they already have theirs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of the strategy, you're already on it, is one, empowering the people, entrepreneurship, home ownership, It's got to be something where people have assets, because if they don't have assets, then they don't have any income to do anything. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen? The buildings are going to close. And that's one of the reasons, and I'll share this, that's one of the reasons why I talk heavily about helping pastors to add the layer, not shut their doors, but add the layer of a live stream. You got to get involved in live streaming and connecting with people, and not being afraid to say, okay, send your offering here if you're not going to come in. All of this is really going to change. It's already changed. It's going to
change, Pastor. You are on it. You are so on it. It's going to definitely change, and it's going to change.
Yeah.
And Pastor, it's going to change sooner than everybody thinks.
Exactly. And I've been sounding the alarm. When I lost my church to a water main break, the building, I was so devastated. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And I was all depressed. And honestly, I was suicidal, because church building, I'm like, I done went here. What is going on with my life? I know Pastor, what is this? And the Lord spoke to me one day, and he said, you do everything else online. Why you can't have church online? And I'm thinking, how the people how in the world, all my friends gonna talk about me. I done preached in all these churches. Oh my God. But I followed the Lord, and I kind of did it, on the low. But the interesting thing was when the winter time came and a lot of churches were closing, because you know how New York winters are.
That's right.
Have services. I'm on the internet saying, even if your church is closed, this is what you can do. Like I just shared with you about the webinar. This is how you can have, audio service. This is how you run it. And people were like, oh my God, you have helped me so much. So I think that my situation was gonna, bring me to where I am, but it's been a tremendous blessing, and I'm just sharing information through the academy for anybody that wants to join, and having people on like Bishop Walker. I see you want to say something, Bishop. Jump in, please.
Well, no, listen, I want to say to you that you took a step of faith. You jumped out there, and I'm proud of you, and you made it work. And I think that you are a forerunner for all of us that are coming behind, because, again, eventually it's coming to this. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and I shared with Bishop, I'll share this with pastors, we're doing this live stream and it's filtering through Facebook, but when I texted the bishop and it was sort of new to him, I said, listen, you got all these church planters all over the place. He may not be able to get to those. You could be stuck in the airport. Anything could happen. Guess what? Here's a platform. You could still have that meeting and engage with people. And when you got younger people in your church, they have no problem with this. Because they looking at a screen all day.
All day. And you know what? And so are we.
Exactly.
And so are we.
All day long. Did you have any last words you want to share?
Well, I just want to say to you first, thank you so much. I enjoyed this tremendously. And I trust and pray that I've said something today that have touched somebody's heart today. And especially to all of our millennials, I want you to know that there are preachers and pastors that are concerned about you, such as myself and Pastor Hooper, who really want to actually be able to impart to you and also leave a mantle as well. So I pray that you receive what I said to you today. I pray that you will find yourself in someone's church and lock in there. Because I believe that there's a fresh word, whatever church that you're in, lock in there, lock into that pastor, that there's a word that will keep on helping you to really move to the next level of life. And again, Pastor Hooper, thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And Bishop, if you have anything coming up, any training or anything like that.
Sure. You the lady, you the woman that can do it. Listen, I don't know why the world won't. Listen, I always say, listen, if you need anybody to help and to train, and I've always said this to you, and I say it behind your back, you are the one that people can trust and get in there to help build and help grow the church. So I say, those of you that's looking on, please, you need somebody to help you, to coach you. This is the woman.
Thank you so much, Bishop. But I was going to say, at Convocation, if you have any classes or anything like that, let us know so that you can come up to Connecticut and
sure.
Be a part of that, any type of training or anything that you're doing. As we close out, if you do not have my ministry handbook, I'm going to put it here. It is on sale for July 4th up into Sunday. Go to my website at deborahhooper.com. Evangelist and Minister's Handbook, everything you need to know before you go. Please don't go and not know. But there's a plethora of material that's on there. The Hooper's Ministry Academy is open for the next 2 weeks. If you've been joining us and being a part of all of these webinars and things that we do, feel free to do that. Bishop Hezekiah Walker, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You've always been kind to me. We're family. You got me.
Forever.
And if you don't make me the first female MC on His House Radio,
we're going to make that happen. Listen, I'm going to tell you like I tell everybody else, send me a demo here.
I'm working on it, but I'm going to come with
work on it and send me something.
Wait. I need some music.
That's all right. All right. All right.
We're going to make it happen.
No problem, sweetheart.
Bishop, thank you so much. God bless everybody.
Love you.
I'll talk to you later. God bless. Bye-bye.